All right, well, welcome to the Viking Press Pass, episode 27, and I'm Matthew Nickel. And joining me today from the women's wrestling team, Sandie Pfeil. So, Sandie, thanks for squeezing me in today.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely. No, it's been awesome. I've been wanting to really connect a little bit more with the wrestling team. Since I had Coach Willard on, and it's really kind of a great opportunity coming off of the experience the women's team had on Saturday. But I'm also going into the CCIW championship here Sunday. So well, hey, let's talk a little bit about Saturday's duel, at the University of Iowa. Um, the Vikings open up, against number 4 Grand Valley State, and then obviously number 1 Iowa. We don't need to talk about scores or anything like that, but generally, I took my family up. We were super excited to go up and watch, the Vikings at Iowa. What was it just kind of generally like wrestling in that type of venue?
It was quite amazing in my opinion. Just like there was a lot of lights, and it was more. There was like a bigger crowd than I guess I've been used to at most of our events, which was really amazing to see that there was supports. And I really enjoyed like just like the atmosphere, even though like there was a lot of Hawkeye fans out there, but there was a few Augie fans too. So like it made
Hmm.
it was really special in that way.
Absolutely. Well, I know as soon as we knew, I bought tickets back, I think in December, for it. So I know we were super excited to go. That's just, that's the mecca, of wrestling. So, um, so it's pretty cool to be a part of that. But going into that, you're wrestling two of the best teams, in the country. What was kind of the mindset, for you and for the team, kind of going into that duel?
I think our mindset was, yeah, they're like these are really top level teams, and these are just like a great experience for us to grow as a team and grow our experience, because this is the type of competition that we're going to see as we progress into the season and the postseason. So this is the type of competition we want to see now, so that we can prepare in the room. And kind of like going into it, I guess we were just like, hey, we wrestled like they wrestle, we train like they train, we do everything that they do. So why not? Like it doesn't, just because they're D1 or whatever, that doesn't really distinct like stop us. That's not going to stop us, because if you're working your singles, you're working your shots, you're working your setups, you the opportunity is still there for you to dominate. So don't let like a title or the big name like scare us too much.
Yeah. You guys wrestled with, a ton of effort. There was no give up in anything. Sawyer Graham, she upset the number 2 ranked, in Grand Valley State. And there's a lot of great matches. And it's actually, it's been my first time actually, watching a women's, wrestling event there at Iowa. So, it was just kind of cool to see the Vikings on that stage. And it's like I couldn't imagine, myself in that shoes, kind of going into that. And I thought it was pretty awesome. But when you take a look at like within the CCIW, North Central's, obviously they have some, really strong talent, but it's like you're ranked, by Open Mat as well. They're at 124. And, going up against, the 4th and 6th ranked wrestlers. What were kind of some takeaways from those matches? When you were wrestling with Aspen, Blasco, and then in Callie Lang. Um, what were some takeaways, from those as you kind of prepare for the championships here on Sunday?
I think some takeaways is that I'm just gonna keep tightening up and working on like my setups and what I need to like capitalize on. And like
Mhm.
I had good stuff in my matches personally, and my coaches told me that. I guess that's why I'm saying that. But they said like I had good stuff, like and these are the best, and I'm hanging in with them. I'm making it to the second period. I'm not. It's not just a complete like I'm flailing all over the place or something crazy like that. So I think it's just like minor changes in things that I'm already solid at to help get to that next level and get to that fourth and sixth rank spot, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I didn't really see a match that I felt like we didn't, like, you ladies didn't feel like you didn't deserve to be there. I thought it was, really good competition, and it was awesome. And it was interesting. I had some friends that were sitting, a parent of a female wrestler, from our youth wrestling club, was behind the bench, you guys' bench, with her daughter, and she texted me and just commenting about how positive Augustana was, just really enjoying the moment, super supportive coming off, still felt very kind of locked in and focused, um, and how important that was for her daughter, to see that, because she's in, I believe, seventh grade. So, when you hear stuff like that, what does that mean, to you, when when you can have such a positive impact, to other, young girls kind of in the stands, especially, in wrestling?
I find that really cool to hear because like coming up for me, I've been wrestling since I was 5, so there wasn't too many other girl wrestlers out there, or there wasn't like this big like, oh, someone to look up to, I guess you could say. So just to just be like hear that a younger person saw us and they're like the positivity and everything, which is something I feel like our team as a whole we strive to. We're always like, hey, it doesn't matter, one bad match or one lost point doesn't mean the end of the match. So like just stay positive and we work on like building that family around the
Mhm.
team and keeping everyone close knit because like who else understands us better than our own teammates. So
Yeah. And they always say you never know who's watching. So I thought that was a pretty cool takeaway, and something we'll definitely be sharing at our club, here, well, tomorrow night at our next practice. So, um, well, let's talk a little bit about the this Sunday. So, Augustina's hosting the CCIW Conference Championships. After wrestling some of the top teams in the country this past weekend, how do you think that experience is going to help you going into this Sunday?
well, for me personally, I think it's perfect. It was the perfect opportunity for me to see where I was lacking and where I need to step up to the plate so that I can work on those this week, like, and capitalize on that so that I can do better and see high level competition so that I can compete with them even better and I can become an even higher level competition against them the next time I see them as we move into the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's kind of like, when anytime you can go and wrestle up when you come back, and, you're wrestling someone, kind of within the CCIW, I think there's a ton of confidence, that you can take into Sunday. And, you've had the privilege of wrestling, kind of the national stage, as well, which is tremendous. And, but, as you look ahead to Sunday, you know, what are you, kind of, expecting, either team wise, or are there any, particular opponents that you're kind of preparing for, to see on Sunday?
Um, For my team, I believe that we're going to do our best. We're going to put our best foot forward. We're going to keep that positive energy that we always keep. And I always say, like, guys, support each other, go to each other's matches because that little bit of support, that little bit of cheering on the sideline, it matters. Like, in the moment, it might not feel like it matters, but it does. Like, it's like you have those people that are there that been doing the grunt work with
Mhm.
you, been through the turmoil.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, hey, like if I'm, not in the right headspace, they're that last bit of like hope, sometimes that push you to drive your feet more, get that turn, get the yeah. And then for preparing for this, like my competitors, I really don't I personally don't take the aspect of let me look at my competitors and let me train just to wrestle them. I'm just training to do my best, and my best is gonna go against any competitor that I have
Mhm.
out there, because if I'm training what I know and I do that on the mat, then that's what I can do.
Absolutely. Well, when I'm, coaching some of our, our youth program, I'm like, there's two things that, right, that you can control going in. It's your effort and your attitude. And it's like, everything else will kind of sort itself out at the end of the day, but, continue to focus on those two things. Um, and then kind of let the chips kind of, fall where they may. But, um, it's been, interesting. It's like, you have had the experience, as the first established class and kind of 4 year, wrestler at Augustana for the women's team. I mean, what's that experience been like? Just kind of laying that, groundwork and kind of framework for, the next generation.
I think it's for me personally as a senior looking back now, it's just great to see the growth of our team, like at Augie. I remember when I first came, it was like like we were a little bit of a joke like sometimes because it was just like we had girls at all levels. We had some girls who had wrestled for a while, some girls that had wrestled for it was their first time ever wrestling because we were just trying to get bodies in the room and we were willing to show them and they were willing to put in the work. So when you have people that are willing to put in the work, why not coach them, why not get them involved in such a cool sport? But now we have girl and coming from me personally, like I've been wrestling for a while, even before college, but I didn't do as much freestyle. So that there was a learning curve there getting into freestyle in college. And so it was cool to just see my progression. Like I was thinking just the other day about how I came in a newcomer to basically freestyle, and now like I'm
Hmm.
leg lacing really good, getting guts, like in learning throws, and those are things that I probably would have never done when I was in high school and stuff because I was too afraid to throw maybe or too afraid to do those kind of moves. So I think like there's a big more confidence has been built around our team and just like who we are on campus as well. Like we have a bigger presence on campus and people are like those are the girl wrestlers and they have like a little bit more like respect for us, which is really really nice to
Yeah.
see.
Well, I was going to ask you, how the transition, was moving from folk style, to freestyle. Um, because especially for women, it's like, um, you've been wrestling since you were 5, so it's like you're a bantam, and you're wrestling folk style your entire career. Um, so then I had to explain to, both of my boys and my wife that were there, like, here's are some of the differences, and the different types of styles and what's kind of similar. And, the rounds are different. They're a little bit longer and, it's a little bit more about exposure and some of those other things. So, how was that kind of transition? Like, did it seem, did you ever feel like you were not as confident going in, or was it just really more about, how you're trying to finish certain moves that, you had to try to adjust to a little bit?
I think at first I was a little bit nervous because well, I was a bit of like a leg rider and I was really big into that like in folk style because it came easy to me. And I felt like it was a little bit harder to get that with the rules of freestyle. So that kind of made it a little bit difficult. But I think slowly as I learned and I like got more exposure to the type of freestyle matches, I was able to like transition from the moves that I used to do in folk style and like kind of adjust those to fit into that freestyle form. So like I was
Mhm,
getting my single to a leg lace instead of just taking it up and getting it to the mat to, work it out that way. It was more of like small adjustments because like I since I've been wrestling so long, I had a solid single, I had a solid double, I had a solid high C. Like the basics were there. It just needed small adjustments to build
mhm.
those other foundational movements for freestyle.
Yeah. Um, that's cool. I mean, I was, growing up, did you wrestle for a club then? Um, and then, or did you kind of, with like a youth development program, or did you, wrestle more like independent? Like how did you kind of grow up through the ranks of wrestling?
Well, so my mom actually she wrestled in high school and then my cousins who are like around my age, they got into it and then my mom was like, "Do you want to try?" And then she put me in it. And so then the local high school had like a youth kind of program and then I joined that for a little bit, and then we joined a club, and then it kind of just took off from there pretty much. So yeah.
I was trying to, and I was on track wrestling and I saw, three, Sandie Pfeil, track wrestling profiles. And I saw one was, from Evanston, Illinois. Now, were you previously in Illinois and then moved out to Vegas, or is that somebody
Yeah.
completely different?
Oh no, yeah, that's me. I was born in Evanston, and I was there for a while, and then when I was like about 10 years old, we like moved to Vegas. And so like it was a little bit interesting because like in Illinois in the Midwest, like there's tournaments every weekend. There's always something, and then in Vegas like wrestling wasn't as big. So like you had to go seek out those tournaments, which was a little bit harder, I guess, in a sense.
So how'd you kind of find your way back to Augustana?
So all my family lives in like the Illinois, like Illinois, but closer to like Evanston, Chicago area. And then my cousin actually graduated from, well, he went here last year, and he's like a year older than me, and he was on the wrestling team. And then my aunt was like, "Oh, like when I was like looking for school, she's like, "Oh, like I know Augustana like has a program, or they're gonna start a program. Like you should come do a visit." And then I came and did a visit, and I loved it. I loved the coaching staff, and and then I just like stayed stuck with it here. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was curious. I was like, because I was looking at some of your old, like, bantam, matchups, and once I got into like track, I was, it's like a little bit of a rabbit hole. So it's pretty cool to see. Um, Now I thought it was pretty neat too. I mean, the NC2A announced, last week that the first women's NC2A Wrestling Championship is coming in 2026. When they announced it at the stadium on Saturday at the duels, I mean, it was a resounding like cheer of support. What's kind of been your reaction, to that news?
I am very excited, and I'm very excited for the sport in general because I feel like why haven't we had it already? Like the sport has been one of the fastest growing sports for a long time, for women. So I'm just like, what took so long? That's really how I feel. Like what took so long, you know? Um, yeah, that's
I mean,
really
here in the Midwest, it's like it's been growing so much that, a lot of times now, it's always been mixed, boys and girls wrestling together in tournaments, and a lot are still like that, but you're starting to now see where there's so much, need for it that they're starting to break out, and have, girls specific tournaments, which is awesome. And, as we were getting set for our SmackDown a couple weeks ago, I mean, I was getting messages from, parents of, girls asking, do they have folks registered around, their weight, and are we going to be able to pair them up, together, and some of those things. So, um, so it's been, a ton of support, and heck anymore. I mean, so many clubs, especially in the area, has just, you know, gosh, they're building specific, wrestling rooms, these programs now. And so it's been pretty awesome. Now, um, last year, you, Sawyer Graham, and Hannah, you were the first ever at Augie to earn a trip to the National Collegiate Women's Wrestling Championship last March. I mean, what was that experience like?
that was it for me. It was I was emotional. I was like, oh my goodness, like it didn't really hit me for a while actually. Like right away I was just like, "Oh, like I guess I'm going to nationals, like yay." Like I don't know. I'm not someone who just like it hits them right away. And then I like sat down after and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to national. Like this is crazy." Like and I don't think I really like grasped what that meant until like I got there and I saw the teams. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is like this is like the
It's
real deal. Like
huge.
this
Yeah,
is
it's a
like."
big deal.
So yeah, that it was a little it was I don't know. I didn't see how crazy it was until I got there and I was like, "Oh my goodness, like well, let's see what we can do." And that's kind of how I feel. That's how I kind of feel about most things. It's like, "Well, I'm here. Let's see what we can do."
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
use a little bit to your advantage. And I know I would have loved to have gone there. And again, I think even this year, it matches up as the same weekend as Iowa's Super Pee Wee State Tournament in Waterloo. So we've been up there the last few years, and probably will be up there again this year. Um, so yeah, it's such a cool opportunity. Just being, I think what's it in is in Coralville or Cedar Rapids. I think it's Cedar Rapids maybe that's held in.
Yeah, I think
Um,
is Rapids again this year, or might be. They switched. They might have switched it again.
yeah. Now, you see it kind of scrolling here on the bottom of the screen, but you were recognized as the CCIW Women's Wrestler of the Week earlier this month after you went 4-0 at the Fred Johnson duels. Um, didn't give up a single point in your two tech falls. I think it's the second time you've been recognized the Women Wrestler of the Week as well. Um, you know, Seeing stuff like that, I mean, what was kind of your initial reaction when that was announced?
I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, that's cool. Like, hey, like that's. I don't know. I just don't get. I think it's cool, and I like to see the recognition out there, and I think like showing like, hey, these are women athletes, and this is what they can do, and it helps just promote it just by posting, and it gets more acknowledgement about the sport out there as well. Because like I have friends that they never even went to a wrestling match before until they met me, and then they come out and they're like, after they leave, like, I love it, like, let me know when another one is, like, let me come and watch. Like, they're like, I didn't know what was going on, I didn't know how did the points were going, but I loved it. And that's kind of like what I think is cool about wrestling is like, I'm like, guys, just come out, like, just come out, you're gonna love it. And that's kind of why I think that's really cool.
I mean, it's a different breed of event, and um, it's such a cool thing to go and see, and but it's also like it's just such an intimate sport. And seeing and kind of learning a little bit about that, and it's one versus one. You can't hide behind somebody else scoring points, or catching the pass or making the block. It's just you. So but I also think too, like you alluded to earlier, like early on you kind of felt like maybe Augie was looked at as like the joke, but it's like, well, now we have a couple of ranked wrestlers competing on national stages, being recognized as conference wrestlers of the week. Like, you brought a lot of credibility, and this team has, to the Vikings in such a short period, of time. So I think that's just something that you should certainly continue to embrace. I think it's just cool to be recognized. So I think hats off to you and rest of the girls on the team that it kind of put it where it is. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I that's really all like I could say. Like like coming as a senior, like I the growth that I've seen from our team as a whole, it just makes me so happy, and it makes me like excited for the future of the Augie wrestling women's wrestling team. Like it's like wow, like the freshmen we have right now, I can't wait to see how they're gonna grow, and like it amazes me every day. Personally, I'm just like wow. Like I remember what the team started out, and I'm looking at it now. I'm I like we have a full lineup of girls. I remember when we had a bunch of holes in the line. No, we have a full, well, basically a full lineup of girls, and we can step to these teams and win some matches and win them not by like, oh, this maybe it's a win, maybe it's not. No, like it's Augie won, and that's the end of the conversation. So I think that's real nice.
Yeah. Well, and a little bit too, just about the expansion and kind of the Augie footprint. I mean, the QC D3 invite. Last year was the first year, of the event. I think it was something that Coach Willard said, "Hey, let's try and see if we can make this happen." And it was like 23 teams, 160 wrestlers. Vikings finished ninth out of 23. You finished third in the 123 bracket. You know, you've been to nationals, but now you have this kind of QC D3 invite. I mean, what was that experience like? Not only just kind of being the host team, but wrestling. You're reminding me a lot of like you go to these state brackets or districts and regionals and some of those things. It reminded me a lot like that. I mean, you're wrestling, you know, four or five times, to get the championship match, over a course of a day or two. What was kind of your experience last year? And because Vikings are hosting it again this year, so should be pretty awesome. What are your thoughts on that?
I had a great time last year at the D3 invite. I was really happy with my performance. I think it was a great meet that set me up for nationals, for qualifying for nationals. And, it just gave, I always believe in, to wrestle good, you need to see people. You need to see different people. You need to see people from all over. And it was nice to see some teams that we don't typically get to see because they are a bit further away.
Mhm.
So I got to see the competition and show them like who I was at that time. And I'm excited to see what I can do this year as well because and it's at home this year like right at Augie. So that's even better for me. It's just like I'm in my home conditions. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what it means as well, just for the Viking program as a whole, to be kind of at the forefront of hosting, an event like that. To be the first team that's kind of leading something like that. I mean, brings I think a ton of credibility to the team, the program, the school, versus going to somebody else's school to compete at it. So that's pretty cool. So I'm hoping we can be there and watch a little bit of that. Now let's move a little bit to kind of academics. So you're a kinesiology major. Um, what kind of made you go to the kinesiology route, and what are you kind of thinking for plans, after Augie?
Well, I picked kinesiology just because I love, I'm interested in science, and then I plan to like go to PA school or physician assistant school, after that. But yeah, I like the fact that it implements just like the human body, and I like to use it like the information I learn. I like taking it into my workouts and helping me meal prep as well, just so to be better. Like yeah,
Mhm.
I picked it fit the needs of what I wanted to learn. And I like that Augie had like a newer facility for it
Yeah.
as well. Like they basically built a new building for the major. So it's like state of the art training room. We could test our VO2 max. We have like this bod pod thing that takes like measures your body fat percentage so yeah, a lot of like cool opportunities while still being able to wrestle, which was really nice.
Yeah, that's been, I think a growing major, and I think, definitely having that news at Peter Lindbergh, I think is the name of the building. Um, it's awesome. So a lot of, student athletes I've been talking to have, went the kinesiology route. And um now do you intend to, keep involved with wrestling in some capacity after you graduate? Have you thought a little bit about that at all, or?
I've thought about like maybe coaching here and there, or like looking for a team to coach with. Yeah, I love to share the knowledge. I love, not I don't think I'd ever like quit wrestling. I love it so much. I think any wrestler knows like when you're not in season, you miss it so much. And sometimes when you're in season, it's like, oh goodness, like I gotta go to practice, I gotta do this. But when you're not in wrestling, it's like it's like a part of you is missing. So I don't think I'll ever step away
Yeah.
from wrestling completely, but maybe I'll take a step back from being on the mat a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gosh, just so many opportunities for, to coach, really anywhere, you ever land, whether it's clubs and, and youth development clubs and some of those things. Um, and, 'cause I saw as well, you were on LinkedIn recently, you started a new role at Unity Point, as a part-time rehab tech. So, I think you started that here recently, but what's that, kind of role? What does that kind of entail, and what's your schedule look like during the week?
Well, that role is just I help out under some physical therapists, like OTs, PTAs, and I kind of help like do some of the workouts, set up some rooms and things. And that job is really flexible with my schedule since we practice like at 6:30 every day, which is a bit crazy, but I feel like it's beneficial to practice early. But yeah, and then I have class, and then I'll go to work, and get done about 4 o'clock and then have time for homework. So it's been an easy transition for me.
So you guys practice at 6:30 a.m., you said?
Yes.
Oh, that is early. What time do you guys typically get done?
About 8 o'clock.
That's a good little morning workout session. So
Yeah.
when I was thinking maybe you wrestled more, in the afternoon or evening or something like that. But um now have you done any internships over the summer at all? If you had a chance to do any of that?
No, no, I don't really do. I haven't done any internships over the summer at all. I like to keep my summers pretty free, pretty open, and I just kind of work just so that I can
What
like,
makes
yeah,
money
just
and
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And
I
I
never did
well,
an internship.
I feel like the wrestling season itself is so long. Like we
Mhm.
start preseason basically once we step foot on campus pretty much. And then even in the summer you're lifting, you're training, you're building your cardio, so you're setting yourself up for success for the next season that comes. So I feel like keeping my summers free and being able to just travel and go like see my family since they are like far away, it kind of just makes the most
Yeah.
sense.
What so what do you like to do? I mean, outside of school, outside of wrestling, um, what do you generally like to do?
Well, I am in a sorority on campus. So I was the fall vice president for that. And so I just organize a lot of stuff. I like hanging out with my sorority. We do lots of charity events and dog and car washes. I really like going on hikes, being outdoorsy. I like crafts. I love painting. I love, you know, just things that free my mind, really, to just, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the motto, for the Delta Chi Theta sorority you're in, and said, "If you are in something worthwhile, then it is everlasting." What is that kind of motto? How does that motto apply to you?
Well, for me, that just means like if you're in something and you love it so much, it's forever. And like I feel like that's how for my sorority at least our relationships are everlasting. Like you will find a DKI anywhere. You like we have DKIs in Chicago, we have DKIs like me who are from across the country. So like just be outside of Augie, once we leave, we're still gonna have each other, which is just a nice sentiment in my mind.
Well, I know, and a lot of times they try to center things around like homecoming week. So I know a lot of folks will come back, and they have specific events that they'll hold on, and whether Greek life, um, it's pretty neat to see folks rocking their old jackets that they have, shirts they're still trying to maybe fit into for some of us guys, but yeah, it's pretty neat. And I think there's a ton of great things you get out of just not only just networking, but like you said, a lot of the charitable events that you get to be a part of, and just the friends outside of sports or the major or something that generally you're tied to so closely. It kind of forces you to branch out a little bit as well. So um well, awesome. Well, hey, we're at like 33 minutes. So this is it's been a great conversation, and so Sandy, I appreciate, you getting taking some time to fit me in here today. J term is coming up to an end. So you know, so we'll see you Sunday here at the CCIW Championships. I'll be doing the PA for that. So I'll be looking forward to a fun, long, kind of successful day. So again, appreciate joining me today.
Thank you for having me again. It was so great.
Absolutely. We'll see you Sunday.
See you Sunday. Bye.